LeBlanc, and today I'm going to be doing a financial analysis for you all. We're going to be looking at three different industries: the entertainment industry, the oil and gas industry, and then the advertising thing industry. And within those three industries, we're going to be looking at 5 different companies within each one. So in entertainment, we're looking at DreamWorks, Walt Disney, Viacom, Time Warner, and 21st Century Fox. And then in the oil and gas industry, we'll be looking at Halliburton, Baker Hughes, Schlumberger, General Electric, and National Oil Well. And in advertising, we have Lamar, Clear Channel Outdoor Holdings, Meredith, New Media, and Outfront Media. So first up, we're going to look at DreamWorks versus Walt Disney. And so we'll just go right into that. First of all, we're going to look at their short-term solvency. So their liquidity ratios are the current ratio, the quick ratio, and the cash ratio. And you can see here on the graph that DreamWorks wins in the short-term solvency area. They just have much higher liquidity ratios. Next up, we're going to be looking at the long-term and then also their asset efficiency. So in this one, we like Disney better. Even though DreamWorks has less debt, Disney is able to cover their debt so many times over. So it's okay if they have higher debt because they can cover all their debt. They also have a higher total asset turnover, which means they have better asset efficiency. And we like that. So now we're on the profitability. So the ROE is higher for Disney. They also have a higher total asset turnover, like I said, and a profit margin, and their operating margin is higher, which is what is driving that ROE. So they're going to win this category. The only thing that DreamWorks has is they have less debt than Disney, but Disney has no problem covering their debt, so we are okay with that. Looking at the market value, Disney is going to win because they have a higher market to book ratio and higher enterprise value. The company is more valuable than DreamWorks. So just to recap, DreamWorks was better in the short-term liquidity, but Disney won in the long-term asset efficiency, profitability, and the market thinks more highly of them. So next we're going to just go ahead and compare Disney to Viacom. And so in the short term, you can see that Viacom, again, is going to beat Disney on the liquidity. Their current ratio, quick ratio, and cash ratio are higher than Disney's, but that's okay. In the long term, Disney wins. They have less debt, and then the debt they do have, they're able to cover it many times over again. And then again, they're really good with their asset efficiency, and they have a higher total asset turnover. And then when it comes to profitability, Disney is going to win. Even though Viacom has a higher ROE, it is driven by they pay less in taxes, they have a tax break, and we like that Disney takes less debt, it's less risky, and they also have better asset efficiency. For the market value, Disney is a clear winner here. They have a higher price earnings, higher market to book, more enterprise value, definitely a more valuable company than Viacom. And then for our recap, Viacom again is better with liquidity in the short term, but Disney takes the long term asset efficiency, profitability, and then the market thinks better of them. So next up, we're going to do Disney versus Time Warner. So in the short term, Time Warner actually again beats Disney. Better liquidity ratios again. Disney does not, pretty consistent, but they are not very liquid. In the long term, Disney is going to win again. They're taking on less debt than Time Warner, and they can cover it with no problems. Again, asset efficiency, they're going to win there again too. For profitability, Disney is our clear winner. They have a higher ROE across the board. It's also their ROE is increasing, and then it is driven by their operating margin and their high asset efficiency. And so that looks good for Disney. Market value, Disney again with a higher price earnings, higher market to book, more value added to the company. So once again, Time Warner wins in the short term, and then Disney takes all the other categories, so they are our winner here. So now we're going to look at Disney and 21st Century Fox as our last entertainment companies. So in the short term, just going with the flow here, 21st Century Fox is beating Disney in the short term liquidity. They have better current ratios. And then in the long term, Disney again is winning, same amounts, just lower debt, more available to cover it, and better asset efficiency. Profitability, Time Warner, 21st Century Fox does have a better ROE in some of the later years, but Disney is really consistent with their ROE, and their Fox's ROE is driven by a tax break that they get, where Disney's is driven by their operating margin and their asset efficiency and the things that you want to be driving your return on equity. So the market, again, thinks highly of Disney, more enterprise value, more higher market to book, higher price earnings. So in this one, again, Fox is leading in short-term solvency, and Disney is in long-term profitability, asset efficiency, and the market. So now we're going to move on from entertainment into the oil and gas industry and see what happens there. So we have Halliburton versus Baker Hughes. So in the short term, Halliburton wins. They have higher current quick and cash ratios. They're a more liquid company. So then in the long term, Halliburton is taking on more debt than Baker Hughes, but they can cover their debt. They have no problems covering their debt. They have a few years in the negative, so does Baker Hughes, and we'll see that in 2015 and 2016 in the oil and gas industry because of the oil prices in those years. So I'm okay with it that they have a couple of bad years, but Halliburton is going to win this one, and also they have better asset efficiency. Profitability, the higher ROE is Halliburton, and it's also, again, driven by those good numbers, the operating margin, the asset efficiency, the profit margin. So they're doing pretty great. They're very profitable. And then the market value, so Halliburton has a higher market to book ratio and more enterprise value, so they're going to win this one. And pretty clear that Halliburton is our winner here in all categories. So now we're going to move on to Halliburton versus Schlumberger. So looking at short-term solvency, Halliburton here, you can see in the graph, much higher liquidity ratios than Schlumberger. Now moving on to long-term solvency and asset efficiency. Halliburton does have better asset efficiency than Schlumberger does, but Schlumberger is definitely leading in long-term solvency. They have way less debt, and they can cover it many times over, again with those oddities in 2015 and 2016. Then we move on to profitability, and you can see that Schlumberger is a clear winner here. They definitely have a higher ROE, and then it is driven by their operating margin, their good management, and their, they're taking on less debt, and they have a better profit margin. So market value and supply chain. So Schlumberger has, we don't have a price earnings ratio for Halliburton, but Schlumberger's price earnings ratio is really high, which is good. And they also have a higher enterprise value. So Schlumberger is going to win the market. So Schlumberger wins this comparison. Now we're looking at Schlumberger versus General Electric. And in the short term, Schlumberger is doing better. They're more liquid, definitely with those 2015, 2016 years. So keep in mind. And then in the long term, Schlumberger has less debt, and they can cover it better, and they also have better asset efficiency than GE. Profitability wise, it's clear that Schlumberger has a higher ROE here, and they also have less debt, are better with their assets, better management, better operating margin, things like that. And then for market value, GE actually beats Schlumberger. They have a higher market book and more enterprise value added. But in the end, that's the only thing that they are excelling at, and Schlumberger wins this category with short-term, long-term asset and profitability. Next is Schlumberger versus National Oil Well. And in the short term, National Oil Well wins. They have higher liquidity ratios than Schlumberger does. And in the long-term solvency and asset efficiency, you can see that Schlumberger does have better asset efficiency, but National Oil Well has less debt than Schlumberger and is able to cover it more times over. So then when we get to profitability, Schlumberger is going to win. They have a better ROE. It's more consistent, and it is also driven by operating margin and asset turnover, where National Oil Well has a great ROE those first few years, but it's driven by their tax burden and their interest burden. And what the market thinks is they think that Schlumberger is a better company, better price earnings, better markets to book, and higher enterprise value. So in this case, Schlumberger is our winner. They did better in asset efficiency, profitability, and market value. And that was our last oil and gas company. So now we're going to move on to the advertising industry. And we're going to start with Lamar and Clear Channel Outdoor Holdings. So in the short term, Clear Channel does better. They have higher liquidity ratios. Their current ratio is higher, not by much, but it definitely is higher. In the long term, Lamar is doing better. They are taking on much less debt. As you can see here in 2013, it is insane how much less debt they have. And they also can cover their debt pretty well. They had a few years where they couldn't, but they do much better than Clear Channel. But Clear Channel is doing a little better with their asset efficiency. And in profitability, Lamar is leading with ROE and ROA. And again, less debt and better operating margin. And when the market comes in, Lamar's winning. They have a better price earnings, better market book, more enterprise value. So in this case, Lamar is our winner in the long-term profitability and the market value. So now we're going to do Lamar versus Meredith. And in the short term, Lamar actually is winning this one. Meredith has some pretty low liquidity ratios. And in the long term, Meredith has less debt, and they can cover it way more than Lamar could. And they also have a higher total asset turnover, which means they're doing better with their assets. And then in profitability, Lamar, again, is leading in the ROE and ROA. They're definitely know what they're doing. Their operating margin is great. They have good managers. Like, it's a good company. That's clear from this. Better profit margin as well. And then the market definitely thinks Lamar is better overall. So in this one, Lamar takes short term and profitability and market value. When's that one? So then we have Lamar and the New Media Investments Group. So in the short term, New Media is doing better. Definitely with a spike in 2014 in liquidity ratios. And in the long term, New Media has less debt. We don't have information from a couple of years, but the ones we do, they have much less debt. But Lamar has no problems covering their debt, so we're not that worried about it. And they're better with their assets. And then in profitability, Lamar, again, ROE and ROA is higher, pretty consistent there, higher operating margin and profit margin. And then market value and supply chain, pretty consistent too. Price earnings and market to book ratios are higher, and then the enterprise value and economic value added is higher for LeBlanc. So here we have a oddity because new media actually wins 3 out of 5, but we actually are going to pick Lamar because of their consistent ROE, and it is growing, and it's just clear that the market thinks higher of them, so Lamar is actually our odd winner here. So now we have Lamar versus Outfront Media. And in the short term, Outfront Media has better liquidity, higher current ratio than Lamar does for sure. And then in the long term, Lamar has more debt for sure than Outfront, but since I don't have a lot of numbers down here about can they cover their debt, I can't rightly pick them as a winner because I don't know if they can cover it. Where here, they have more debt, but they have a better ability to cover it. And they also are better with their asset efficiency. And then in profitability, Lamar is doing better ROE, it's getting better over time. And then, again, good operating margins, total asset turnover, profit margin. And then in the market, Outfront does have a better price earnings ratio, but everything else pretty much Lamar is leading on, so the market thinks highly of Lamar. So in this one, Lamar wins everything except for short-term solvency. So now these are our winning companies from each industry: Disney, Schlumberger, and Lamar, if you remember. And we are going to analyze them against each other and then pick one final winner. So Disney and Schlumberger, this is just recent news. Disney definitely is a masterful brand storyteller. That is, branding is like one of their strong suits for sure. And continuous innovation is one of their strategies that has gotten them this far. And analysts are saying it's a strong buy. And recently, they changed their credit rating from A to A+, so that's positive. And then oil and gas industry, the price of a barrel of oil has been raised for the first time after that 2-year slump, that 15-16 slump that we talked about. And the analysts are saying it's a hold for Schlumberger. So looking at short-term solvency, Schlumberger is doing better. They have higher liquidity ratios for sure. And then long-term solvency and asset efficiency, Schlumberger has less debt than Disney, but Disney can cover their debt much more than Schlumberger can. So we definitely take that into account. We like that about Disney, that although they have more debt, they definitely can cover it. And then they are more efficient with their assets than Schlumberger. And then profitability, Disney is doing better, higher ROE and ROA. Definitely, they have more debt, but they also have a higher operating margin and better with their assets. So then, when we look at the market value, it's clear that the market really likes Disney. Higher market to book and enterprise value and economic value added for Disney. So in this one, Disney is a winner, even though Schlumberger did win the short-term solvency. So then we're going to do Disney versus Lamar as our final two. And so Lamar is teaming up with Recycle Across America, which is definitely a social issue that will help them out for sure. And then analysts also say that Lamar is a hold. So in the short term, Lamar is doing better with an odd year in there in 2013, but definitely higher liquidity ratios than Disney. And then Disney is taking on less debt and can cover the little debt that they're taking on. Lamar has a lot of debt and not doing too well covering it. Doing fine, but not as good as Disney is doing. And then Disney also, again, they're more efficient with their assets. And then in profitability, Lamar has a higher ROE, but it's driven by that tax break they get and their profit margin. And there's nothing wrong with Disney's ROE. It's great and it's consistent. And we also like that it's driven by the operating margin, their asset turnover. And the small amount of debt that they're taking. So Disney is going to win profitability here. And then, and when we look at market value, we see that LeBlanc has a better PE ratio, market to book ratio, but Disney has more economic value added and higher enterprise value. So we like, the market likes Disney and we like Disney. So again, Disney is winning everything except short-term liquidity, which has been a common theme throughout this. And I guess that's okay because Disney is our winning company. Go Disney.